There ain't no grief can hold my body down. There ain't no grief can hold my body down. When I hear that trumpet sound, I'm gonna ride.
Hey, what are we going to do today? Is that what I heard you ask? I'll tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to take a road trip to the grave and what's left of the home of legendary musician Johnny Cash. You're not going to want to miss this. Let's go.
Yeah, jamming out to Johnny Cash, cooking blues, man in black, pedal to the metal, Folsom Prison, don't know how to act. Jamming out to Johnny, jamming out to Johnny, jamming out to Johnny, jamming out to Johnny Cash, cooking blues, man in black, pedal to the metal, Folsom Prison, don't know how to act. Jamming out to Johnny.
I know a fella who was Johnny Cash and Waylon's security guards, bodyguards, assistants for years and years and years. 17 years, I believe, he was Johnny Cash's assistant. I know some personal stories, and we're going to talk about them. Come on. All right, guys. I flipped it around here. We're at Memorial Gardens in Hendersonville, Tennessee. And my goodness, it's cold today. So we're gonna walk right up here. And Johnny Cash's grave is right up here. I'll tell you guys some cool stories. I might even play a song or two. So let's go. I came here a few years ago. I came here probably about 2018 for the first time. And what's really cool about this place is that Johnny Cash's guitar player, Luther Perkins, is also buried here. And one of his longtime friends and songwriters is buried here as well. I believe Merle Kilgore is his name. And he had a lot of hits from Elvis and everybody. He was a big time songwriter. So check it out, guys. Here we are. We're coming up on it. The grave of Johnny Cash. All right, if you've never seen it before, this is really good stuff. Him and June, it's actually June's grave too as well. Sorry about that. Him and June passed away in 2003. I remember like it was yesterday. I was about 14 years old, and that started my obsession with Johnny Cash. What's really cool, happiness is being at peace, being with loved ones, being comfortable, but most of all, it's having those loved ones. It's having those loved ones. Johnny Cash. It's a quote from Johnny, and this bench is really neat. It's kind of amazing. And there's his graves. We're gonna go around here. There's his grave. He's got somebody from Brazil came, I suppose. That's incredible. Brazil, and there's an American flag, and there's a lot of money on the grave. There's some dollar bills and people leaving pennies and quarters and roses. That's a real rose right there. I guess family and fans come from all around to see Johnny's grave. Here's the back of the bench. Cash Carter. I walked the line. That might have been his favorite song. He walked that about June. Wrote that about June. And then there's Wildwood Flower, and that was one of June's songs. How cool is that? So, quick story. I really got interested in Cash when my grandfather, my uncle told me a story about him and my grandfather, and they used to sell firewood to Johnny Cash and his dad years and years and years ago. And when people still had a lot of wood burning stoves, they used to sell firewood in Hendersonville a lot. And my uncle met Johnny Cash a couple times, and in that process, and it was probably the 70s, maybe 70s, 60s, 70s, something like that, or 70s or 80s. I can't remember. I don't know if I can give you an exact time period, but he he said he remembers pulling up at the house and talking to Johnny, and you know, they would bring him the wood in and they'd pay him for it. My grandpa was in the logging business, and at first he started selling firewood, ricks of wood. He would cut his own wood and stuff and sell it. And you can make good money back in the day doing that, but a lot of times nowadays people have central heat and air. So I'm gonna flip this back around so you can see the grave. And here's from the front part of the grave. There is John R. Cash, born February 26, 1932, and he passed away September 12th, 2003. Psalms 19:14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable, O thy sight, in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. What a powerful, powerful word. That's almost like Johnny saying a last prayer right there. And there's his signature that they put on his plaque, his memorial. That's incredible, guys. Here's June Carter Cash. She was born June 23rd, 1929. So she was a little older than Johnny. Interesting. And she passed away May 15th, 2003. And on her grave she has Psalm 103:1. And that's, blessed the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless his holy name. Just giving love, giving thanks to God. And right there is somebody put a necklace on there with a little cross. I don't know if you could see that. And they put a little heart. They made a heart out of it. So, and there's real roses and everything around, and it's pretty neat. That's great, guys. That's great. If you've never seen Johnny Cash's grave, here is the gravesite. I urge you all, if you're in the Middle Tennessee area, or you know, close or even far, to come see it. It's really neat. And we're going to go to his house here in a little bit. We're going to go to his house. So I'm going to show you Merle Kilgore's grave. He was one of the longtime songwriters of Johnny Cash, and tons of other musicians as well, country artists. He wrote a lot of stuff. Look up Merle Kilgore if you ever get a chance. And here's Merle Kilgore's grave. And there's his bench. I like the cowboy boot. That's pretty cool. Here's his bench. It says, I will meet you in the morning over there. All my love, Judy. It must have been some songs he wrote. And it's really, really neat. Look at the cowboy boot and the flowers. There's a lot of okay, so here's Merle's plaque. There's a lot of prominent people in this graveyard, and it's really, really neat place to come. It's close to Johnny's house. And here's Merle Kilgore's plaque, born 1934, August 9th, and he passed away in February 6, 2005. 2 years after Johnny. And he's got his hands there with some rings on it. I guess it's his hands that they put on there. It says, quote, "Are you kidding me? I've made the biggest deal of all." I'm not sure what that means, but I like to look at some history on that. Here's his signature. He got one that looks a lot like Johnny. That's really cool. Here lies a beautiful dreamer, singer, songwriter, entertainer, and loved by all. Merle Kilgore. There's a picture of him right there. And I'm pretty sure he was in one of the documentaries that was made about Johnny at some point. I'm pretty sure I've seen him in that years and years ago. But let's go look at Luther Perkins. Let's go look at Luther Perkins's grave. Now, he passed away, apparently Luther, and he came up, you know, he played a lot of songs. He was a lead guitar player, rhythm and lead, I guess. But he came up with, you know, that really cool solo on Folsom Prison. And it was, ba-da-da-ba-ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da. I love that solo. That was one of Luther's signature moves, signature licks right there. But we're gonna go to Luther's site here, and it's really, really neat what this graveyard houses. It houses a lot of amazing, incredible musicians, entertainers. It's almost like Midnight Montgomery here, you know what I'm saying? It's a really interesting place. Let's go over here. I think this is it. Pretty cool. But Merle, I didn't know this. Or not Merle, Luther, his guitar player, passed away pretty early on. I doubt. Here it is. Here's his grave. Some flowers there, and he passed away pretty early on, so there wasn't like a big plaque or nothing done. But Luther, MLM, Luther Perkins, and there's a guitar on there, and there's a Sun Records sticker, which is really neat. Who knows when that was put there? But this was Johnny Cash's guitar player, and I assume, unless they moved his grave, that after Johnny hit it big, you know, and they came to Nashville, or they came to Hendersonville and lived here. I assume he lived close to him and bought him a place or something. But he was probably buried here, you know, a long time before Johnny. Well, there ain't no probably to it, but 1968. He was born in 1928, and he died in 1968. So he actually passed away pretty early on, which is interesting. I did not know that. Over here where it would have a wife's name, it says November 24th, 1962, love and music fill my heart. So very interesting. The grave of Johnny Cash's main guitar player, the one early on that started out with him. So there's so much interesting history here in the Memorial Gardens gravesite in Hendersonville, Tennessee. I might play a couple tunes, tunes at Johnny's grave. Set my camera up. I don't have nobody filming for me today, so I might just set my camera up, see if I can play a couple of filler tunes, Johnny Cash songs, just to give us a little bit of music for the video. Look at that. Jesus Christ. No, literally. A statue of what I assume to be what Jesus Christ would look like, or what people think he might have looked like. Imagine walking out here at night, walking up on a pearly white, huge statue of Jesus Christ. Terrifyingly beautiful, scary, yet so much love that you probably could not fathom. To meet your maker has to be one of those things that is indescribable. So much love, and at the same time so much fear. But anyway, I'm gonna go grab my guitar. We're gonna play us a couple tunes at the gravesite here. All right, let's go.
Well, I hear that train a-coming, it's rolling round the bend. I ain't seen sunshine since I don't
hear that train a-coming, it's rolling around the bend. And I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. Well, I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. Well, I hear that train a-rolling all down to San Antonio. Hey! When I was just a baby, Mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't never play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. And that train keeps rolling.
Ever since I can remember hearing those old sounds about a man dressed in black that won't back down, I've got a twist in my neck, a grit deep in my soul that would never expire, forcing my fire empire never willing to fall. Got it made in the shade midday, cause you raise them astray or a nickel parade. Try to cast never played it safe, cause your golden shines never fades away. Hit rush it to clutch outlaw to the bone, he flipped the finger to music roll. Sunday morning coming down, ring of fire, don't take your guns to town. Swimming in big river, walk the line. 615, Johnny Cash till I die. Yeah, I'm jamming out to Johnny Cash, cocaine blues, man in black, pedal to the metal, Folsom Prison, don't know how to act. Jamming out to Johnny, jamming out to Johnny.
All right, guys, we just arrived at what's left, the foundation of the home of Johnny Cash. We are here, and it is a beautiful day. It is cold. It is cold today, but it is a beautiful day out here. I'm going to kind of walk around the grounds on the outside of this beautiful stone fence that was built, and I'm going to give you a little bit of history of the place. I'm going to tell you a couple stories. There's one that you don't want to miss. It's kind of a wild story, but I'm going to talk about it. One of the stories is hearsay. I heard from somebody who was a family friend, and so one of the stories is how I was able to go inside of Johnny Cash's house. I actually went inside around 2006. It was wintertime of 2006. The house burnt down in 2007, I believe. I think it was in July that summer. So I actually went in probably about 6 months before it burnt down, and I was able to tour the house unexpectedly. It was with a job that I had at the time. So I'm going to go through some really cool stuff about this place. Bear with me, it's cold, so I'm going to be catching my breath telling you guys the story. So let's go. All right, guys, I'm going to flip this camera around so you can see how beautiful it is out here. This is on Old Hickory Lake, and let me go ahead and flip it. There is the security guard shack, the where I guess anybody who wanted to come here, you know, they had to, maybe his security was, and they had to run people off, or they had to sign people in to come down. And there's a driveway right over here. I'm going to walk around. There's a driveway right over there, and it drove down, and the house was actually, oh, short. The house was actually far back. If you can see, there's a foundation still there, but everything else burnt down. Over there is a little place, I assume, where they keep stuff to maintain the premises and the garden and everything. Fun fact, this was actually, and the property goes way over there. We'll walk over there and I'll show you guys. This was actually Roy Orbison's property before Johnny Cash. He had bought it, and he had lived here for quite some time, I believe. But here's a plaque, and I'll read it to you guys. Got a helicopter going overhead. The Cash Home, referred to as Nature's House, builder Braxton Dixon designed the Cash. Rugged beauty existed with open rafters, barn boards, and a wall of native limestone. The 14,000 square foot home overlooked Old Hickory Lake with the panoramic views and gardens that stretched across the property. Here, Johnny and June Carter Cash entertained family, friends, and neighbors for 35 years. The Cash home also served as a retreat for fellow musicians to gather and compose music with one another until 2003, the 2003 deaths of Johnny and June Carter Cash. And so it's crazy, guys, to think that right here, you know, Johnny Cash at some point walked and spent a lot of time here. The legend, international superstar Johnny Cash. One of my favorites. One of my favorite, I'd say top 3 is Johnny Cash. I have way more of a what you would call, I have way more musical taste with Johnny, his persona, everything he was about. He was an outlaw before being an outlaw was cool. And at the same time, he was grounded by his spiritual faith in Christ. And I definitely feel that about myself. I feel like there's a lot I have in common with that. So there's the driveway right there. So in 2006, I'll tell you guys a story. The foundation's over there, and it was a beautiful place, and I think there's a dock down there. So I'll tell you guys a story real quick. In 2006, I was working for Lowe's in Gallatin, Tennessee, and they had a return. Somebody wanted to return some stuff, quite a few things, Quikrete, other supplies from the lumber department that they didn't need. So we get a call, and they needed quite a few people, because there's a lot of stuff, a lot of heavy stuff. So they asked me to get in the delivery truck, and y'all take a look at this. Gorgeous out here, completely gorgeous. Hopped in a delivery truck, me and a bunch of people, and we came to the Johnny Cash's house. So we all went in, we drove in, and we all went in, and we was unloading, we was grabbing the Quikrete and stuff like that out of the closet, and we was taking it back to the delivery truck, putting it in there for the return. And I was enamored. I was just, you know, taken back by being inside of Johnny Cash's house. It was really insane. And so I told my boss, I was like, hey, I gotta use the restroom. So I took that time to explore Johnny Cash's house just a little bit. You know, I went to the restroom, and I had to go down this twisting corridor, almost like a spiral staircase, but there was no stairs. It was smooth. It had like green limestone, like almost like jade, and it was really cool. It was just so unique. The house was like nothing I'd ever seen, obviously, personally, and anywhere I've ever seen, like on the internet or anything. It was almost like a work of art instead of a house. It was really, really neat. Just to think that Cash played songs at the same place I was at, like just standing there where he had friends over. Ain't no telling who he had over in those 35 years. Probably Elvis, you know. It's amazing. So I was just taken back by it. And so I went down this winding staircase, and I went to the restroom. And I remember the restroom, I walked in it, and the toilets was up on a throne, like probably like a foot-high throne, and made of wood, like really old wood. And the sink in the restroom was, and I wish I had a smartphone back then. You know, I had like a flip phone, cell phone, and I don't have the pictures or video or nothing. I didn't take none back then, but the sink was a huge, giant pearl. It was like, or not pearl, I'm sorry, like a shell, like a clam shell or something like that. It was huge. It was probably like 2 foot wide, deep or whatever, like a foot deep, like 3 foot wide. There was 2 of them, and it was really, really cool. The way that they, you could tell they were real, authentic clamshells from God knows where, whatever ocean. And they, you know, they had a hole in them where the water would go down and drain and everything. And so I used the restroom in his house, and I went out and I looked kind of around, and there was this room that was shaped like a hexagon or octagon, And it had green tile in it, just of random shapes and stuff. And the whole room had sun windows, so it was just surrounded by light. You know, light was in it. A lot of light was in it, and there was windows all throughout the house. It was very open. And then there was, I think, the upstairs where the kitchen was and everything. It wasn't as much like that, but it was really neat. It was a huge open kitchen with cooktop and everything. And I just remember looking down the hallway of that hexagon room, and there was a long hallway, and it reminds me of the part in the movie Walk the Line where they were eating Thanksgiving dinner, and him and his dad get into it, and you know, there's like a long hallway right there with a bunch of open windows, and so that's kind of what it reminded me of, like just like it almost. So there was a long hallway with all these open windows beside of it. Then there was another room at the end of that, a big hexagon shaped room, or octagon shaped room, I can't remember, and it had open light as well. It was like these sun rooms, these huge rooms with sun, almost like a sunroom though, and it was incredible. It was incredible. So here's the garden area, and there used to be a plaque. I don't know what happened to it, if somebody took it, but I've read it here before. It's been a while, but this was actually Roy Orbison's property. And there, let me flip this around. There was a plaque up here close to this tree that talked about it. Roy Orbison actually owned this property too, and apparently there was a house fire here, and I'm thinking Roy lived, because there's a big place over there with dead grass, and I assume that maybe where his house was at some point. And there was a big house fire here, and apparently 2 or 3, and you could probably Google this, 2 or 3 of his sons passed away in the house fire. And Roy and Johnny were really, really close, and Johnny bought the property, I guess, before Roy died. And Roy Orbison was famous for that hit song. If you don't know who he is, he was famous for that hit song, Pretty Woman, you know, pretty woman walking down the street. So that's who Roy was. He had had a house fire, and it's crazy because it makes you think. There was a house fire here, and it burnt Johnny's house, you know, and then there was a house fire just a house fire, and it burnt Roy's house down, Roy Orbison. Then there was a house fire just a few years later. By a few, it was probably, you know, 30, 40 years, and it burnt Johnny's house down. 2 fires on this property. One that, you know, killed people. The other one thankfully didn't. But it just makes you wonder, like, what kind of things are going on this property. It's really interesting. Over here on this side, there's a bunch of deer. Not sure somebody's raising deer. But yeah, this is the garden area. And I remember on the plaque, somebody, or it's saying that Johnny had promised Roy to never sell the property or always take care of the garden, because that's where his sons, his family had passed away in the fire. I remember hearing that and stuff. So really neat story there. Tragic, but neat nonetheless. I'm going to tell you guys a couple stories real quick. I told you the one with Lowe's. When I worked for Lowe's and I was able to go inside the house. It was really, really cool. Now I'm going to tell you one. I'm going to tell you one now that I heard from a family friend, kind of. Maybe a friend of a friend. And it's possible that it isn't particularly true, and I'm probably got some of it wrong. And this is just hearsay. It's just hearsay. But this is from a guy who supposedly kind of worked. They knew a guy who worked bodyguard. He was like a assistant, and he would go do stuff for Johnny. You know, get money for him and stuff like that. And he completely trusted this guy. So this is a story. I think some people might find some kind of disgrace in it. I think it's hilarious, and I love it. So there's 2 or 3 stories. Maybe I can get this guy on the channel Maybe I can interview him at some point. We'll see. But one of the stories was Johnny asked this guy to go get some money out of the safe. You know, he said, "Hey, I want you to go to my safe and get like $1 million out of it." I think it was like $1 million or something. He kept a lot of money there, and the guy said, "Okay." So he went down and he got a ton of money. You know, he got $1 million or whatever it was. He probably had $3 million in the safe. I can't remember. I think that's what he was saying. So he went down. He got that money, and he came back up, and this is the rumor that supposedly they spread it out on the bed, and obviously the guy wasn't there for this, but supposedly him and June had a, you know, they had made love with the money on the bed and them, and that's kind of an interesting story. Supposedly that's what it was, you know. Who knows? Obviously he wasn't present, so who knows? But the guy said that, you know, he asked Johnny afterwards, he said, what would you have done if I would have just took the money and ran? He said, you know, if I would have just took the money and bolted and, you know, stole it and threw away the keys to your safe or something. He said, Johnny said, "Oh, we'd find you." He said, we got people watching at all times. So another story I actually heard this from the guy himself out of his own mouth. So this is a first-hand story I'm about to tell you. Another really cool story is at some point Johnny needed some clothes dry cleaned, some suits, I guess, or something. And the guy, he had just hired him. The guy was actually Waylon Jennings' bodyguard and assistant for a long time too, until Waylon passed away. And then he worked for Johnny for about 17 years, he said. This is out of his own mouth. So he said he had hired the guy, you know, I guess on Waylon's recommendation. And he wanted to get some suits dry cleaned, so he gave him some suits, told the guy to go take them to get them dry cleaned. And the guy took them to get them dry cleaned, and he checked the pockets before he took them to the thing, the place. And so he found like $5,000 in one of the pockets of the suits. And he said, "Holy moly." So he took the money, and then he took it back home. Whenever he dropped the suits off, he took it back home to Johnny. And he said, he threw it on the table. He said, "Did you forget something in the suit there, buddy?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, I guess I did. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for your honesty." Okay, cool. Obviously, he was probably testing him, right? But this guy didn't know. You know, he thought maybe he was really nice, and obviously he's not going to do something like that. He was a trustworthy fella. So another thing happened where another time where the same thing happened. He was going to go get dry cleaned, some stuff dry cleaned. Sorry, people are sightseeing here too. So another story, same type of story. He had sent the guy to go get some more stuff for him dry cleaned, and he sent him off with some suits and shirts and whatever. So he took the suits and he took the shirts, and then he was checking the pockets before he took it to the dry cleaners, and he found like $15,000 in one of the pockets. Right? He told him to check the pockets real good. Found $15,000 in one of the pockets. Okay, so the guy said, "Wow, okay, this ain't no mistake. He's testing me. He's testing me," you know what I'm saying? So he went home and he did the same thing. He went back to the house and he said, "Johnny," he said, "you gotta stop leaving money in your coat like that." And he said, apparently Johnny said to him, "Okay, you passed the test." So there was 2 separate times that he sent a lot of money, sent him away with a lot of money that he could have stolen, but the guy brought it back because of his honesty. And he knew then, he said, "Now I know I want to keep you around. I want to actually hire you, keep you around." So Johnny was testing the guy. That was pretty cool story, I thought. So again, guys, here we are, and the property goes way over there. Here we are at the House of Cash. What's left of it, the foundation, it's right there in the middle of the screen. and there's a gate over there and everything, and it was gorgeous, man. I remember it. It was so gorgeous. It was just, it had a really earthy theme to it. And so that's story time for the channel. I've wanted to do this for a while, and I'm finally getting around to it. So I really appreciate you guys for hanging on here. We got so much stuff coming. We got songs, we got features with people, we have interviews. I have some more big artists I got to interview. I've interviewed Ryan Upchurch on the channel. That was one of the most amazing things in music that I've done, I've been able to do. So yeah, guys, like, subscribe, and I'm gonna bring you more content like this. I might go to somebody else's house next time, or somebody else's gravesite. I'm just a huge Johnny Cash fan. Black on black Johnny Cash. All right, have a good one.